I'm Norman, a social work student. Joining me today is my older brother, Simon, a Red Seal tradesman.
Hello.
Today we're going to be discussing Inceldom from a disability studies perspective. Simon's job is to reflect and ask clarifying questions, and you get to learn alongside Simon. So we're going to start with an incel lore dump, and then I'll give some very brief, basic disability studies theories background, and then we're going to apply the disability studies theories to incels. So starting off with incel lore, incel is a mashup of the words involuntary and celibate.
It's a portmanteau.
Yeah. Basically means people who desire to have a sex life who can't seem to make it. So in 1997, a queer woman named Alana coined the term incel, and she created an online forum to be like a support group for it. At this time, it wasn't meant to be like an identity. It was just seen as like a temporary transitionary phase that everybody goes through. Really relatable things like not knowing how to approach a crush, or not knowing how to communicate your feelings, or like depression's interference with your ability to present as your best self. So just relatable things. And it had a huge pillar of inclusivity. Everybody was welcome regardless of sexual history, orientation, gender. Didn't matter, and it was strictly moderated to prevent it from turning into a echo chamber hellhole of misogyny and apathy. In the early 2000s, other people started making their own incel forums, and they ditched the inclusivity model. So this led to them not moderating so much, so there was much more extreme content, much more misogynistic content. Also, the identity of an incel became dominated by heterosexual men. On top of that, it started to no longer be seen as a temporary or transitionary phase. It was becoming an inherent identity. So this is when incels started to get into genetic determinism.
Really, that long ago? Yeah, I had known that it was from the 90s. I just didn't realize they were oh, this is in your DNA 20 years ago. I think it's the shape of your skull.
Pretty much. That marks the end of Alana's original spirit of Inceldom, it being inclusive, and now it's basically just a mind prison of hate.
A mind prison of hate. She's just what the fuck?
Yeah, it's been co-opted.
Yeah, she's just yeah, anybody else just looking for love in all the wrong places. And then quickly they were fuck you, bitch. I created this zone. One thing that I noticed from the original model is that it didn't have any interest in explaining why people were incels. It wasn't oh, it's society, it's race, it's class, ableism, or disability, or societal values, or genetics. They just wanted to provide practical peer support and understanding and help each other through this phase, where now it's full-on identity, and they're really big on explaining why and connecting it to society and genetics. Now we'll jump to academia's current understanding of Inceldom. So one struggle with studying Inceldom is that there's not really a true consensus on the definition of Inceldom. Part of that is because research is still kind of early. Another big part is that there's such a huge range of how people can identify as an incel. It can be from Alana's original spirit of Inceldom all the way to being indoctrinated into the fatalistic, misogynistic, racist, violent belief system that fuels gendered terror attacks. So some people look at it more as a spectrum of identification, from more Alana's side to more extremism, and I'm okay, I'll just go with that. Incels and mental health. So extreme inceldom looks a lot more like acute suicidality than perpetuating physical violence. Incels are notorious for inciting violence online, especially gender-based violence. But as far as acting out violence, we see that a lot more in self-harm, suicidality, or even in-group incitement of suicidality. They try to convince each other to kill themselves. They also have really high rates of anxiety, depression, and autism spectrum disorder, and they seem to be treatment resistant
or something. They're 12 times less likely to report a benefit from mental health intervention. And this is a huge problem because then it causes incels to warn other incels against help-seeking behavior. They're like, it didn't work for me, don't do it. Then we're going to be able to help them even less because they're not going to come.
Why are they so unsusceptible to help?
Like, as a guess, because it's like an ideology and a belief system. It's not necessarily like, oh, this person's like just experiencing anxiety and depression. It's like they have this whole ideology that supports this thing. And we'll actually get into the ideology now. So incel ideology is pretty big, and I've done a bunch of research, and I decided to break it down into 3 key themes. The first one is the incel hierarchy. So incels believe that their romantic failure is due to us having a superficial society. Like, we measure a man's worthiness based on superficial values of attractiveness, height, charisma, wealth, status, class, whiteness, etc. In this hierarchy, people who do really well in these categories are at the top, and people who do miserably, incels, are at the bottom. And like, that's basically the incel hierarchy ranking system. And any evidence that supports this belief, they'll take as like proof of society's superficiality. So if they're like, oh, this person rejected me because I was too short or fat or ugly or whatever, they're like, aha, you see the evidence, it's there now. So going forward, I'm going to refer to this as the incel hierarchy. And that's not to mean that there's a hierarchy among incels. It just means there's a hierarchy of how men are valued in society as far as incels are concerned.
The incel philosophy on the social status. So like, they're at the bottom, and then there's other guys at the top, and then everyone in between is just like in a dream world.
It's like Chads, and then Brads.
Brads?
Yeah. And then, I can't remember.
And then Dads.
And then there's like, for women, there's like Stacy's, and then Becky's, and then something else, and then like below that. So it's kind of like the very superior people, and then there's the normies, and then there's like the manosphere, incels, red pill, kind of.
The idea that the red pills are the incels. They're like, I've got it all figured out, although I cannot make it work. But I've never heard this Brad thing. Oh, the Chads, the Brads, and then the young lads. And
yeah, so I don't know how it goes as far as like Chads, Brads, and then who's next. Because obviously like red pill people can be at the top. Second one is victim identification. So incels see themselves as victims of inferior genetics and the incel hierarchy. With genetics, they feel they've objectively been dealt a bad hand, and that makes them objectively inferior. And then with incel hierarchy, that has excluded them from society based on the bad hand that they've been dealt. So for example, if you're born ugly, that's because of genetics, and then you're excluded because of the incel hierarchy that devalues ugliness. And they believe this causes their isolation, loneliness, anxiety, depression, and suicidality. A couple incel theories they use to kind of back this up is one's hypergamy. Are you familiar with that?
hypergamy, is that where you are dating lots of people?
Hypergamy is the idea that women date up. Like, they'll try to marry into better, like, societal standing.
What? Okay, that's not what I thought it was at all.
There's also the 80-20 rule. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, like 80% of women are being dated by 20% of men or something like that.
Yeah. So 80% of women are only really pursuing the top 20% of men. And there's, also the idea that, like, there's 20% of men are, like, they're getting all the babes and that leaves no one else for the rest of the guys.
I did hear this where it's like, the obvious counter to that is, like, most people end up in a partnership. So obviously it would need to be a more closer to 50-50 than 80-20. And their thing is like, yeah, but most of those guys are getting cheated on. It's like, so much of it is like, I'm just convinced, like, have you ever had a woman in your life, like, even as a friend or anything, they're just like, they're fucking...
She only said that because she's a hypergamist. Yeah. Like, everything a woman does is like, it further proves the theory. It's like, no. You're reading between lines that don't even exist. Yeah, so I think this section is like the heart of incel misogyny because they blame women for creating and enforcing the incel hierarchy. Like what women choose to pursue is therefore valuable in a man, and what they ignore is then unvaluable and like worthless and will become an incel. So it's like the genetics are one thing, but then the women are enforcing it. So the women are the architects of incel exclusion from their perspective. Number 3, secret knowledge. So this is like the last section of the incel lore, and incels kind of believe that they've been bestowed with this secret knowledge that the rest of society is oblivious to or just refuses to accept. So incels and like the manosphere, they borrow from the movie The Matrix to symbolize different levels of enlightenment through different color pills. Do you want to elaborate? How does it work in The Matrix?
In the Matrix, he can dodge bullets. He knows kung fu. At one point, Trinity is like, dodge this.
And shoots him with a black pill.
Pop. Well, everyone knows the Matrix. You're in a simulation. You want to get out, you have to take the red pill. If you choose to stay asleep, you take the blue pill. So most of those people consider myself and Norm blue-pilled. You know, we're still living in this dream world of what reality is. There's taking the red pill, which is realizing that, like, you know, we've been given a raw deal. We don't need to obey these social norms. We can look at the actual structure of things and know that, like, this isn't fair. Women are manipulative and weird, and we're going to they're gaming us, we're going to game them right back. The incel version of this is more just like basically in agreement, but I am incapable of being one of these guys. I'm down here and I accept it, and I'm not going to be like, please do. I'm like, no, it's not going to work for me. The only thing out there for me is manipulation, heartache, betrayal. So I am just going to say, fuck this, and just bitch about it all the time. Somehow that's better.
Yeah, very good. So I'll summarize. Just want to make sure I hit all my notes in case you missed anything.
I didn't. And then there's guys like Scyther. That's nice. I've always considered Norm to be like Scyther. Well, he's completely fucking, he's been red pilled and he's like, give me the blue pill, put me back in, coach.
So that's what happens when you try to leave the incel community.
You have to kill everyone. And I've always said I was kind of like Neo.
I thought you were more like the guy who's like, you know, like the girl in the red dress.
Mouse? Is that guy's name Mouse?
It's like Twink or something like that.
That guy's blackpilled. He's like, pay no attention to these guys. We need to go into the VR and hook up with the red dress woman, you know? You know?
Then you look at his machine, it's just a monkey strapped into it. Like his real life version is not a human.
Oh, that's actually fucking genius. Like, imagine, like, if we were to come out of the Matrix, you're a monkey. Oh, yeah, like, we all go to the Matrix, we look relatively similar to how we do, and then, oh, you're a baboon. That explains a lot, you fucking idiot.
That's why you've always...
Fuck, that would be depressing. You're, like, looking in the mirror.
So to summarize, yeah, so the blue pill is the unenlightened normie pill that all of society takes, and Simon and I are blue-pilled. We don't believe the incel hierarchy has merit. And the red pill is enlightened to the incel hierarchy. So there's this idea that they can game the system by trying to improve their... What?
I was just thinking of the monkey thing. Well, no, just like we all like wake up and I'm like, I'm a monkey? Like, it wasn't, I'm like, I like that. It's fucking funny.
No wonder. You just keep thinking that. So the red pill is enlightened to the incel hierarchy. There's this idea of like gaming the system because they know how men are valued in society, what metrics are used to determine a man's worthiness. So they go through like extensive efforts to change their like attractiveness, their height, their charisma, their wealth, even their whiteness. So that pill is more common among the manosphere, and the pill that's more unique to incels is the black pill. And it still believes in the incel hierarchy, but it believes that no matter how much improvement you engage in, there's no chance for you to increase your ranking on the incel hierarchy scale. So like a lot of red pillars will, they'll get like leg lengthening surgery, they'll get like facial reconstruction.
Leg lengthening surgery. That's incredible. I wonder how tall you can get like that.
There's this one guy I've been seeing who like is really into it, and he walks around like he has 2 broken legs.
Oh.
Because it's like they break your leg here, and then they put like steel in between. So then he's always like really effed up.
That can't be worth it.
I think he wasn't even that short. He's like 5'10", and now he's like 6'3".
Okay, that's fucking pathetic. Because I'm 5'10". It's like, you don't need to be taller than that. Like, if I was really short, I get that something you'd be insecure about, but like, you're already slightly above average height, and now you're a fucking double cripple for what? He's like, now I'm getting all the babes. No, you're fucking deformed.
This is a disabilities episode. Oh, you're crippled, you're fucking deformed. I'm like, well...
AI says it like it is. I'm not the guy.
You don't need to uphold the academic integrity.
Yeah, I'm fucking white trash, you know? Yeah. I've got good intentions. You can't expect me to know the words to say.
So the black pill is like, no matter what I do, it won't work. So like a lot of people will be red pilled, like that guy. Say if he goes through that surgery and like redoes his face as well, and then like years go by and he's still like defeated. And he's like, it just doesn't work. Nothing I can do can improve my chances.
Yeah, because you're walking like a fucking robot.
You haven't even seen him.
Well, the way you told me, I'm just imagining he's like freakishly tall, and he's like, oh.
He's got like those arm crutches.
You've got to be shitting me. He's like, now I'm an alpha male. Like, in a wheelchair, and your feet are dragging on the ground. You're like, yeah, imagine how tall I was if I could stand up. Yeah, so it doesn't even have to be that extreme. Like, people might just really get into fitness and try to get a bunch of money or try to appear more wealthy by getting into debt, stuff like that, and be like, oh, it doesn't work no matter what. Like, you can't have, the relationships that you want or something. And then they become black-pilled, and that's like really fatalistic, just like completely giving up. So that has like a higher correlation with suicidality. The thing is, like, yeah, it doesn't really matter how much money you have or how fit you are. And obviously this isn't like always happening, but you always hear about a woman who goes on a date and the guy's like, feminism is a cancer. And she's like, okay, I'm leaving. And he's like, it's my jaw.
Yeah, because it was doing that.
Yeah, you hear so many stories of a woman going on a date and the guy's like, women only care about one thing. And then the girl's like, Jesus Christ, you're like mad at me. We just started this date. And the guy's like, I'm jacked. I've got money. What more do you want? I'm just a sweetheart.
If you end up getting this money and you still have this idea that relationships are transactional, like women are only going to like me because I have money, then like the kind of women that you meet who vibe with this attitude are going to be using you for money.
And you're like, got him.
More the proof of the incel hierarchy. There's just like, you could prove anything if you live your life that way, I feel like.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. It's just like, do this transactional thing and you're like, see.
So in line with the idea of being bestowed with secret knowledge, this is something that still surprises me. It stuns me every time I think about it. So you would think that incels would warn people away from inceldom, given the negative outcomes they experience and their general malaise. But there's actually a heavy focus on spreading the secret knowledge and the incel ideology. Like their indoctrination efforts are comparable to mainstream terror recruitment practices.
Well, I think there, like any conspiracy, there's something like very satisfying about like, I have the secret. knowledge. Even if it is ruining your life, it's like everyone else doesn't know what's going on, and you're 100% sure you're right. And also you're like, women are evil and they're fucking pulling the wool over our eyes. So even if this is a net negative, I can't let them get away with it. You know, I think that's another aspect.
Yeah, so that's why they would be like, everybody has to know. It's still bizarre to me. So there's things like, if you Google search unemployment or negative body image in men, you'll get directed to incel websites. And YouTube heavily recommends incel content to young men. So it's like, what? And you might think like, oh, inceldom's fringe, like that's an online thing. But incel culture has gotten so deep into society that incel slang and incel ideas are now popular among mainstream youth.
Like what? Like the Chad and the Becky thing?
Even just like the 80-20 rule.
Oh my God, that's so fucking stupid. Like the 80-20 thing is just so fucking stupid. It's like you look, especially as you get older, almost everyone's in a relationship. What are we talking about here? It's 50, because it's very much closer to 50-50.
And you can't be like, that's 20% of men that are doing it.
Yeah, this is fucking insanely high. Like there's 20, you have like a room of 10 guys, 2 of them have 4 girlfriends. And the other guys don't have any. Like, it's just ridiculous.
That sounds more like animal relationships, where there's like a bull.
Sea lion, or he's got like all his harem, and he's got all his women. And they got that mixed up with humans. Could you imagine they're all like, oh, I am so stupid.
Then they wake up, and the guy who came up with all of this came out of the matrix. Yeah. All right, that wraps up incel lore. Now let's jump to some disability basics. And before we do that, I want to just describe how I'm going to be framing some problems. So we have a you problem perspective, where the problem and the solution lie within an individual. So that would be like, you're poor, you need to get a job. Like, it's your fault you're fucking poor, you gotta get a fucking job. Then we have a societal perspective, which would be like, the problem and the solution lie outside the individual. So it'd be like, people are poor, we need to look at social welfare. We aren't blaming for people for being poor, we need to look at like the state, and we need to think of like how we're doing things as a society. So now we'll get into disability studies perspective. So the first one is the medical model, and this uses a you problem perspective, and it sees disability as impairment. It's like the same thing. So impairment requires a medical intervention, rehab, cure, whatever, and disabled people are responsible for their problems. It's like, you're fucked up. You need to get fixed so we can fit you back into society. So your problem, you need to get fixed. There's like pathologization there. There's a big emphasis on expertise and authority in the medical model, rather than like wanting to hear the experience of disabled people. And this is bad, because then we make like laws and policies and programs for disabled people without getting their input. And this has led to things like institutionalization, where we like just segregate disabled people into prisons and like lock them away, and it's led to forced sterilization, stuff like that. And even this professionalism thing also, like, you know, maybe more relatable to the average Joe. It's like being ignored by a clinician. Like, you'd be like, oh yeah, I've like got this problem, it's been really bothering me. And they're like, yeah, dude, you get fucked, buddy.
Get him out of here.
Yeah. Take a hike.
Kill him.
Well, maybe not that. I'm talking more like dismissing.
I know. Kill him. Suck his soul out. Send him to the nether realm.
I just have to be clear because this was also a school project.
This is for school?
Yeah. I've been telling you, this is why I'm so stressed out about it.
Hey, prof. Okay, well, that makes sense why this is so boring.
Oh, yeah. Also, the medical model isn't interested in input from disabled people. They have their way to deal with disability, and they're going to do that. And the medical model isn't limited to medicine. This is just like a model of like how we look at the world. Next, we have the social model, which uses a societal problem perspective. And this was created like in direct retaliation against the medical model. So here, impairment doesn't necessarily mean disability, and impairment doesn't always necessitate intervention or cure. Like, it doesn't have to be fixed. So disability here is seen as societal exclusion based on impairment. like inaccessibility. So if you're rolling around in a wheelchair and you get to your destination and the building doesn't have a ramp, my wheelchair isn't disabling, the lack of a ramp is. That's prohibiting me from participating in society. And in the same way, it would be like neurodiversity. It's like my neurodivergence isn't excluding me from work or education, it's the lack of accommodation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've heard that before. I think it really makes sense with the neurodivergent thing because, in my experience anyways, neurodivergent people are just very different. Unless it's severe, it often doesn't seem like a disability. It's just like, oh, I'm just very different. And if like all these neurodivergent people were together, they would function completely fine, you know? And it's just them trying to function within like neurotypical society where the problems are. But like oftentimes autistic people are like extremely picky eaters. And I have like read online autistic people being like, yeah, what's it to you? Like, you know, like, well, I'll just make our own food. So I really see a neurodivergent category, like, would not call that a disability. It is just like very different people.
The model also gets trashed. You can't ignore like the inherent difficulty of an impairment.
Yeah, it is like, I actually think that would just feel very invalidating to be like, there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah, like your family's, there's nothing wrong with you. You're the exact same as the rest of us. And you're like, give it a...
If you can't slam dunk, that's because the net should be way lower.
Next, we go on to ableism. Are you familiar with ableism?
I've been called that because I keep saying cripple.
Okay, that makes sense. So ableism is like societal values that privilege and praise productivity, attractiveness, physique, neurotypicality, wealth, etc. Like these really high achievement in these realms. So there's like pressure to keep up with it and be like, you know, A-list good looks and charm or whatever, or like athletes.
So you say like good lookingness is on the, like if you're ugly, that's could be an ableist adjacent kind of thing.
Great catch. And that actually brings us to like the core of how this really applies to incels and not just autistic incels, because yeah, ableism applies to everybody. So if you're like short, fat, and ugly, then it's like, oh, and you're trying to reach these ableist standards. That's where like red pillars who aren't disabled at all, they're like, these ideas are very ableist. Like the incel hierarchy is like super ableist.
Right. Okay, so the academic, like scholarly definition of ableism would include being short, being unattractive, having a yee ass haircut.
What are you saying? I suppose even like baldness and stuff like that, like trying to live up to these norms of like the ideal specimen. And if you can't meet the norms of the ideal specimen.
It's like how you were saying earlier.
Sure. What are you going to say?
You feel like straight people are the ones in the closet now.
Yeah. It's been very freeing. Okay, and disableism holds the same ideals as ableism, but rather than like praising those who do really well, it like punches down on people who fail to meet the ideal.
That's disableism?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard that.
It's more like in line with other isms like sexism, racism, disableism.
I feel like ableism is just like not accommodating disabilities, where disableism is like, I specifically am fucking thinking on them.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see what Prof says.
You tell the Prof I'll put my name on that.
Not my real name.
Simone.
Put Simon on there. Next, we have Black feminist disability theory, and this is a complex theory, but I'm really just going to focus on its use of intersectionality. Simon, do you care to explain intersectionality?
When you have multiple identity markers that are marginalized, like Black, you're a woman, Black feminism, there's the intersection. She's disabled as well. You know, it's just to say that if you are Black and you believe in structural racism, which I do, I don't know about... then obviously you're going to have a harder time. You're marginalized for XYZ reasons. But if you're a Black woman, then it's exponentially worse. It's, yeah, a woman and you're Black. Well, now you're queer. Now that's even worse. Now you're disabled. That's even worse. That's intersectionality, as far as I know. Yeah. And it's something I actually believe in.
Are you saying that's fake? I believe it. Eugenics. So eugenics is an effort to control the breeding stock of humanity. And there's this idea that everything is inheritable, so we need to control heredity to improve humanity.
And you believe in it.
So there's positive eugenics, which is encouraging able, ideal specimens to mate. And then there's negative eugenics, which is discouraging or preventing like inferior people from reproducing. Examples would be like forced sterilization and like strict marriage laws and stuff like that.
Actually, eugenics was celebrated in the scientific community across the board right up until World War II.
Even after.
But that was the point when people were like, ooh, stinky. And then they started getting away from it because it was like, oh, is this the end result of eugenics?
Guess who was like the most celebrated among, anyway, like pretty much top tier eugenicists, like sterilization leaders for sterilization. It's a province.
Oh, a province?
Yeah.
Ontario.
Alberta.
Oh,
that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't think they stopped until like the 70s. So that wraps up incel lore and very basic disabilities perspective overview. So next we get into analyzing inceldom through disability lenses. Disability cross inceldom. Let's connect these bad boys. So Simon, does anything stand out to you as far as connections we could make?
Well, I believe you said autism is prevalent in the incel community. And then we were talking earlier about ableism maybe being an umbrella with things that I wasn't used to being under there, being short, being bald, being overweight. Well, actually overweight I was familiar with in a way. And it is part of there's a hierarchy in their weird way. And then if you mapped their hierarchy onto just like disabilities in general, it's like fucking and you know what, I'm just gonna say there obviously is metrics to attractiveness. Obviously money plays a part, height, looks, whatever. It's just the weight that incels put on it is just like so over the top, like so overdone. You know, like I can just imagine a guy who has like a gigantic ant farm in his garage and he just seeks out women that like ants. And he's like, it's pretty shallow that as long as you have a giant ant farm, you'll get laid, you know. It's like, but this guy goes in bug community forums and finds women, you want to see my giant ant farm? And he's like, it's just crazy. Like they just line up to see my ant farm. And you know, before I had my ant farm, I was a nobody. And now I've got close to 100,000 ants in there, and it's just like, oh, I see your ants.
Yeah, he's ant-pilled.
That's all I have to say. That'll be my piece for this ep, so we can motor along.
The way that I see the medical model directing like regular dudes to inceldom. So the medical model is filthy with individual pathologization, and incels are all over it. Like the red pill loves that. They're like, I'm an objective measure of my inferiority. It really sticks into the belief system.
Sorry, what? The incels are really into the pathology of the medical system?
So inceldom has this incel hierarchy, right? And then the medical model is into individual pathologization. Like,
for example?
So, for example, like that thing where it's like, oh, this disability is your problem. You're fucked. You need to get fixed.
Okay, and the incels love that. But that doesn't actually sound right to me. I believe that incels are kind of like, I have no control over it.
The incels are red-pilled as well.
Okay, but like the incels generally don't believe they have control over it. They just believe it's like genetic.
So it's twofold. It's that they believe in their genetic inferiority and they believe in the incel hierarchy.
So I've always thought that incels were mostly like, and you take the black pill and you're like, there is no escape. That's what I always thought.
Black pill is like the extreme thing. So like picture like the dramatization, like there's such thing as like a one-stop shop doc where you get like a full assessment of everything. And the doctor is like, you have low muscle mass, high BMI, low height, scoliosis, ADHD, and MDD. And you go home and you search, I'm fat, weak, short, deformed, disordered, and deficient. These search results are probably going to direct you towards Inceldom. Like earlier we said, the indoctrination efforts, like these Google searches do tend to bring you there. And then the indoctrination process begins and you're sucked into a community that really reinforces this newfound inferiority that you've just been given by the medical model. So the medical model says you're inferior, and Inceldom is like, join. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And I believe the medical model reinforces Inceldom as well. So they use that you problem perspective, right? So ableism isn't exclusive to disabled people. Remember the 80-20 rule, where it's like even being above average is inferior because you have to be the top 20%, not just like 50 plus, like you have to be a specimen to do well. So ableism tells us we're inferior, and the medical model goes, we can fix it. We can fix your inferiority of only being like marginally above average. Red pills are all over that. They're like, they really seek to game the system based on an actionable change to themselves. Like they want to find this inferiority so they can change it and align it with the incel hierarchy. They're like, give me an objective pathway to success based on my inferiority. The medical model is like, I got you. Let's jump to eugenics. So how might eugenics direct men to inceldom? So eugenics, ableism, the incel hierarchy, they're all basically hand in hand. They all represent what flock are worthy of breeding based on the same metrics. Ableism identifies prime boning stock by praising perfection.
Boning stock?
So ableism identifies prime boning stock by praising perfection, which is positive eugenics, right? Like how we encourage the ideal people to reproduce. And eugenics reinforces the supposed credibility of superior genetics. So the incel hierarchy is basically just a modern interpretation of genetic determinism. If you are romantically unsuccessful, and this sounds like a reasonable explanation as to why, then eugenics are kind of pushing you towards inceldom. What do you think of that?
I guess I don't really think that people are thinking about eugenics that much.
Yeah, well, it doesn't need to be. It's kind of like when you think of like systemic racism, you're not like, well, I don't think people are like, oh yeah, let's like purposely like be racist.
Or like it's like a philosophy. It's not like eugenics itself, but it's like the philosophy of like a pro-eugenics philosophy or whatever would lead you to inceldom.
We also have negative eugenics. So like how negative eugenics might reinforce inceldom. So like the black pill is a form of negative eugenics inspired by positive eugenics, right? Because you have this idea that like, there's no way I can live up to that ideal. So I'm going to remove myself from the gene pool. Like I give up. There's literally nothing you can do to change your ranking on the incel hierarchy. So I'm just out. So the black pill removes itself from the gene pool. So to me, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's an unfaltering belief in your unworthiness. And like, if you completely believe that, I think it's going to come true for you. Black pill inceldom is also characterized by suicidality, and I think if you kill yourself because of your genetic inferiority, that's got to be negative eugenics.
So yeah, basically you believe that some people are superior than others. You are scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're not worthy to reproduce, so you don't. And then some people take it a step further and they kill themselves. They have self-identified as like unworthy to.
You know, we like to think of eugenics as being a thing of the past, but we have an entire community marked by suicidality that lives by these eugenic ideals. And that leads me to say that Inceldom is a eugenic psyop funded by the global elite to round up inferior men and enforce genetic determinism. I just thought it would be fun to have a little psyop bit in there.
Yeah.
Ableism. Simon, any thoughts on how ableism and Inceldom connect? And we'll just cut it there and you can take your sweet fucking time.
Though I was going to say, you know, off cam calls it gableism, which I hate. When he acts like that, I call it rabelism. But okay, connections between ableism and inceldom. These things are directly going to affect how well you can like attain a partner, right? And then if you get into these negative spirals and you can go, yes, because I have scoliosis, and you go on these online forums and you just people telling you exactly, and you're like, yeah. And next thing you know, you're like, I'm at the bottom of the hierarchy and that's that, you know.
So that take is basically the take that I had before I started the project. When I first started the project, I was like, oh, Inceldom has such a huge prevalence of autism. So this is going to be all about autism and like impairment, disability, like that kind of disability, how that really affects Inceldom. Then I realized that like ableism doesn't just affect disabled people, and that's what gives Inceldom like such a broader range of effect, because like ableism is so inclusive, it entraps everyone. Like you don't need to be like disabled. When you mention self-esteem, I feel like that's like such a huge catch-all and like the real thing around the ableism. Because there's like, oh yeah, you could have like scoliosis or be in a wheelchair, right? But it's also like, what does like the average man or even the above average man experience? You know, it's like baldness, shortness. Because you don't need to be disabled, you can just be experiencing those things. It makes Inceldom way bigger. Like it like profits off of inferiority or an idea of inferiority. If what the medical model deems normal is seen as inferior because of like ableist values, then like what does that say about impairment, disability, or even like poverty or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not validating incel beliefs. I'm questioning how an entire community has come to these conclusions and what it says about the messages they are receiving.
I think literally anyone could find something about themselves that puts them in the category. Like, this does happen to people, even if they are at the top of the thing. You know, you just have a stream of bad luck or whatever, and you know, for the most part, you just be like, oh, that was a rough year. Or if you do go down these holes, then you can look at yourself and be like, well, I am tall, I am handsome, I do have money, I am outgoing, I'm not autistic. Like, wow, what is it? Well, eventually you can be like, well, you know, I can't grow a beard, you know, and like girls love guys who can grow beards, or my job isn't high status enough. Even though I make a lot of money, women are embarrassed to be with a guy who does what I do. Like, I just think literally anyone can find an excuse that puts them into that circle, that puts them at the bottom rung. And then obviously if you have a row of things that are socially considered like bottom of the barrel, if you were already heading that way mentally, you'll find a reason.
I think it's perfect because like even the idea of somebody who ought to meet all of these metrics, they can find that inferiority within themselves, right? Mm-hmm. That's the power of ableism. There's always something wrong, right? Like that guy that lengthened his legs, he was 5'10". It's like, come on.
I'm 5'10". I can do a slam dunk. Like, you don't need to be taller than me on an NBA regulated size net. Like, I can't anymore. I'm 33, but 10 years ago, yeah, I could slam dunk.
Really? I was like, you did play basketball. I don't know.
No, of course not.
Like Jeffrey Simon Simstein was saying. To conclude that you're genetically inferior, there must be an oppositional ideal that you fail to meet, and you can blame that on ableism. Like in the eugenics argument, ableist ideals control red and black pill lives. So incels are perpetuators and victims of ableism. The ideology itself and indoctrination efforts heavily rely on ableist ideals to suck men in. Men are targeted for indoctrination, and the evidence used to turn them is completely ableist. You know, like, you'll always be alone because you're never going to be in the top 20%, like no matter what you do. But the ideology and the ableist ideals also seem to be the root of the exclusion and the issue. My insensitive take is that less incels would be excluded if their belief system wasn't based on inferiority. I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, again, but you can't snap someone out of a sense of reality by being like, oh yeah, well, Danny DeVito's romantically successful. You know, like, it doesn't really work. So ableist inferiority is central to the ideology, and we just have to kind of roll with that. I mean, I imagine Danny DeVito's romantically successful. I don't know.
He bit a guy's nose. You can't just tell them Danny DeVito's getting laid. So it's very true. Like, I feel like people do say, oh, this is so fucking stupid and obvious and da-da-da. And it's like, if that worked, there would be no communities online. If you could just tell people, look, Danny DeVito's getting his hog sucked, the guy's a fucking penguin, then there is no barrier for entry if he can do it. I mean, obviously they would just say, well, he's a celebrity and he's rich and da-da-da. But let's say you find a guy like him who's not rich, not a celebrity, getting his hog sucked. You couldn't just be like, aha. Because if that worked, there would be no communities.
Okay, black feminist disability theory. So an obvious connection is to incels of color who white max. And this is like literally trying to become white passing. Like they'll try to change their skin color. They'll use like potions, lotions, treatments, therapies to try to look more white. In Inceldom, whiteness is central to desirability. And this isn't anecdotal. Like if you look at dating websites metrics, it'll be like, oh, Asian women and white men do really well, and Asian men and black women perform the worst, or they have the biggest struggle finding success.
That is crazy.
So you can't say there isn't a system of oppression when people of color literally feel like they need to change their race to be worthy of love.
That is wild.
Like there's this thing about just be white, JBW in Inceldom, where it's like, oh, you want romantic success, just be white. And that's like the white maxing mantra.
Like, to the extent that would work, it wouldn't work well, you know? Like, because what you're saying is white men are more desirable than other races as far as these dating metrics go. It's not to say that it wouldn't work, but it is like, if you got no play, it's not going to be the difference, right? It's not like, oh, now my skin's a couple shades lighter. I find it's like a very right-wing philosophy in general of like, the left are naive, they're living in a fantasy, and we're living the truth. We got the harsh truths. The truths are some races are more attractive than others, and so we make ourselves white. I'm not to say that that's like an actual right-wing thing I've heard, but that idea of like, we're living in reality. Reality is white people are more attractive. Sorry if that hurts your feelings, that's just the reality.
The incel hierarchy at play. So now I want to do what may be a bastardization of intersectionality, which would be incel intersectionality. You know, the incel hierarchy values being seen as like stacking identities. So just like in regular intersectionality, like being like fat, queer, disabled, all those things would stack. So for Inceldom, it would be like being short, stupid, fat, deformed, deficient, disordered, ugly, poor, non-white. That would all stack. And these would all intersect to create a unique experience of like undesirability and maybe exclusion. Like these are all genuine standards of male value, right? Like people do care about these things. And this does not align with traditional intersectionality necessarily. It's more like what we see as like inherent identities, but we can think of it as like an intersectionality of ableism, right? Like these are ableist standards of intersectionality that incels really vibe with. I don't know. Might be seen as a bastardization. I'm not sure.
I don't actually know the definition of ableism. If those things all fall under ableism and your prof agrees with it, then yeah, it's intersectionality of ableism, right? So if it falls under the umbrella and we agree that it falls under the umbrella, then yes.
So incels see Inceldom as an inherent identity, and it can only really be an inherent identity if like these stacking values genuinely do alter their experience, like objectively. And you can be like, oh no, I don't believe in Inceldom, like we just don't believe in that. But then by saying that, you'd also kind of be like, oh, well, ableism's not real, right? Like if there is no intersectionality of ableism, which is basically the incel hierarchy, then you'd be like, oh yeah, being like short, fat, neurodivergent, and like weak and ugly or whatever, then it's like, oh no, that's not real.
Basically what you're saying is, if we accept that these attributes affect the quality of life, especially if we have multiple happening at once to a person, this is causing their quality of life to be lower, we have to acknowledge some level of the struggle of the incel.
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't think that's controversial at all, because I think it's to say, yeah, being shorter is hard. Being overweight, you're treated worse. Neurodivergent, you're going to have challenges other people don't have. You have all these things. Life's a little harder. Life is easier if you don't have these things. That's not controversial. I think you'd be a pretty weird person to be like, no. That doesn't mean that you have to say, and therefore we have to give the incels their flowers and say, there's a little bit of something that we have to acknowledge here. Like, no, like you don't need to then be like, I'm struggling, I'm going to join a hate movement or whatever. There is going to be some truth and something that causes people to join any movement. Oh yeah, there are little motivations here that are based in reality. Like, sure, I don't think that's controversial. It does not mean that we're like, oh, and therefore they were kind of on the right track or something, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Your struggles are merited, but your worldview is not.
So the social model uses that societal problem perspective, where the incel hierarchy would be an oppressive societal structure that excludes them. So the social model of disabilities like impairment isn't disabling, inaccessibility is, and the social model of inceldom might be like genetics aren't exclusionary, the incel hierarchy is. So ableism drives ideas of worthiness that men can't live up to, right? Like the 80-20 rule. And you can argue like, that doesn't cause inceldom. Don't scapegoat for incels. I'm not validating the validity of the 80-20 rule. I'm validating that if someone were to wholeheartedly believe in it, feeling excluded by society would make sense. So societal problem. I don't think that this is like really in line with inceldom. Like I don't think an incel would say the medical model is a system of oppression of its own that reinforces superficial societal values around a man's worthiness. And that's why we need the social model, because it helps us locate systems that devalue and exclude us. It's not like directly in line with inceldom. Incels use both the social and medical model. Right, so they use the medical model, you problem, for their genetic inferiority, and they use the societal problem, social model, for their struggle with the incel hierarchy.
I don't know, like, I feel like you're just not even saying anything. It's like, on one hand, they believe things are their own fault, and on the other hand, they believe the society doesn't like them for those things. I'm like, is this even worth saying? I guess I'm just thinking, like, let's put this in other context. Someone's depressed. There's a lot of external factors causing it, and there's some internal factors causing it. Like,
no, that's a good example too, because think like maybe like 50 years ago, people would be like, you're depressed, there's something wrong with you. You're a fucking idiot.
right.
You know what I mean? Now we have inceldom, and it's like, oh, you're an incel, there's something wrong with you. You're a fucking idiot. And then we go, oh, there might also be like some other stuff contributing to it. Like it's not just that you're on your computer too much or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, power analysis.
I'll show you fucking a power analysis.
Hey. Oh.
Never worked out a day in my life. That's just genetic superiority.
Okay, now let's get into the power analysis. Who do you think like really benefits from inceldom being a really real thing? Who benefits from like perpetuating the idea of inceldom?
Manosphere grifters that are just influencers, and the YouTube channel, their Instagram, whatever. Who else benefits from furthering it? I think that because it is so anti-woman, I do believe like conservatives would benefit from it. Like, I have a hard time believing that you're an incel and you're also a feminist or pro-choice or any number of things. So like a lot of these ideologies that are very commonplace, like being anti-choice, but even some of these more extreme ideas that a woman should not be working, a woman should not vote. I think it's very easy to go from being an incel to believing these things that not long ago were considered extremely radical right-wing ideas that can be perpetuated if you convince a large population of people that women are evil, women are weird, they're basically not people. Then it kind of just follows that they shouldn't be able to vote, right?
Beautiful. So let's get to the politics then.
Oh my God, I was dead on. Oh, fuck.
What benefit does society have convincing white men that they're inferior and that they're being discriminated against, they're going to then align much more with these conservative values. And there's also this idea of aggrieved entitlement, which is basically that like men's values have been being eroded over time. It's like we used to have like all these powers because women were so subordinate before, like we were better, and now like this is like eroding the values of society, and men should have the power and women don't. And now that it's equalizing, it's like everything's wrong. If you can convince white men that they don't have any power, then it's like, oh sweet, well, like you're just gonna get them to go conservative and really align with conservative values in general.
Yeah, like what incel would have voted for Kamala? You know?
And what about if we think of like prophets?
I mean, I guess you would have these leg lengthening surgeons, skin whitening, so any of these looks maxing things, but like I find that's got to be negligible. I do think the main thing would be like these grifters, these communities, these online areas, just because they are so hopeless. I can't imagine they're spending that much money on shit.
I think you really nailed a lot of it on the head there, Simon. So my power analysis from the top. So you might think like, what do men have to be insecure about?
Cock size, beanbag being distorted.
That's actually, there's like so many terms that I'm not going to get into because it's actually so deep and very interesting. But there's something called dick mogging. Dick mogging is like having a big dick and like making it like more present by the clothes that you wear.
It's so stupid.
And then they also had like, warning though, if the balls aren't descended, some people have balls that are like less descended, this will force the penis to move forward in the pants and have like an artificial dick mogging effect. I was like, you guys are really thinking too much about this. No, you don't have a big dick, you just have short balls.
You've got a distorted bean.
Yeah, it's not all just about the body, but there's so much that like men can be insecure about. And I think there's this idea of like, what do men have to be insecure about? There's facial asymmetry, undefined jawlines, undershot chins, shortness, lack of muscle definition, weight, smell, low testosterone, low libido, erectile dysfunction, baldness, excessive sweating, depression, anxiety, borderline bipolar, autism, ADHD, trauma, attachment, passivity, beta-ness, low charisma, poverty, and even fashion. So there's lots for men to be insecure about, and there's markets for this insecurity, right? So we have cures like surgeries, pills, shots, creams, diets, tests, routines, programs, subscriptions, whatever. And we also have lifestyle cures like you were talking about earlier, like, oh, you need to get into fitness, you have to get into masculinity, or like fashion or crypto or romance or whatever. You need like this lifestyle change, this mindset change. These things are framed as the key to success. Like you just need to like open your mind to this new vision and like take on this new thing. And there's salesmen who are selling these cures to insecurity or inferiority, right? It's medicine, beauty, it's influencers, and self-help. Like these are huge industries that are like really trying to get you to buy in, but they're not really selling you the cures necessarily. Like they're really just selling you a you problem. They're trying to sell you this inferiority, the idea that in one of these dimensions you just didn't quite make it, which is what you're talking about earlier, where it's like, yeah, but you can be like overall successful in the dimensions, but then like you're always going to find something that makes you inferior. It's like, yeah, you can be like really close to the ideal specimen, and you're like, oh, maybe like my hair is like, oh, I'm balding better, my chin is not quite right, and it's like, yeah, they snagged you. Like they're not selling you on anything other than the idea that you're inferior. Like you were happy and now you're like, oh shit.
Well, there's also like maybe you're not happy and then they're like, well, this is why, right?
Well, I mean, like you were happy with whatever thing.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're right.
Oh, I am fat. You're not.
I am a piece of shit.
Oh, I am low T. Any self-help book has to sell you a you problem, even if it is systemic or just out of your control, because what the hell would the book be about? Yeah, it's not your fault and you can't really fix it. Like, it's just, so it has to be like, it's your fault and you can fix it.
Like, if there is a power analysis, that's where like my psyop joke is. It's like, oh, like the power is in here. Like, we're making people spend, or we're forcing people to be eugenic. Like, where is the power? I think it's more so in industries, selling the people the idea that they're inferior so they can buy their way out of it.
That's basically like inarguable. Like, that's something I think we've been hearing our whole lives, right? They sell you this inadequacy, but to put it on to incels specifically, and maybe that's where that whole thing comes from, or that is like what that was like the gasoline for it.
Yeah, that's like the crux. To me, I feel like when I got to the end of this, it all boils down to the crux of the power analysis, which is that like this whole thing isn't limited to disability incels or men, like you were saying. Like, this has been like an ongoing thing. It's just that humanity is being sold inferiority through ableism, and we're pressured to buy our way out of it. All right, now we jump to interventions. So the first thing, recommendations, interventions that are based on research. So like, what's supposed to help incels leave the incel community? It's like pro-social behavior, community engagement, positive role models, and peer support from ex-incels. And I feel like that one's big, and you touched on it a bit earlier, but like somebody who has like been inside the hive mind and understood like its toxic draw of being like, welcome, you're in here, like the rest of the world thinks you're inferior, but now you're accepted by us. Yeah. And being like, wow, this is the only place I'm welcome because it's the only people that understand. Somebody who can leave that community and is invested in helping other people leave it will understand the experience and be like, look, I get it. I get why you joined. I get like the ideals and everything. So that's supposed to be very helpful. To me, all these interventions, that sound like a you problem or more of a societal problem solution to you.
Okay, so you're saying like they're not changing themselves, they're just changing their minds.
Yeah.
And that to you is pro-social? Because I think that's also could be seen as a you thing. Like,
no, I get that. I was having like a bit of a snag here with my professor as well, but it's just like, no, you don't need to change yourself by like getting a treatment or like, getting more fit or like doing these things to yourself.
Okay, so just like to quit being an incel, their path is through changing themselves, almost like physically in material ways. Yeah. The way to actually quit being an incel is to change your mind and to change your philosophy, and not actual material changes. You just need to quit interacting with these communities, be more open to other people and ideas.
Right, like the incel hierarchy 100% aligns with a you problem perspective, changing yourself. Whereas pro-social behavior, blah, 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 none of that is like aligned with the incel hierarchy perspective.
Yes.
So nothing about cures or treatment, basically just reintroduction into an accepting society. And to me, that's like kind of the downfall of it, is that it's like, incels already obviously live in society. It's like now they just need to go out again and things will be good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, if this was just like some weird world where I could like take over an incel's body and walk out the door, I could probably feel accepted pretty quick.
Yeah.
As far as just being like, oh yeah, like with your ideals. So it's more of like maybe like a step-by-step thing. Like you start to get a bit of community, maybe you meet a role model and you start to like change these ideas, starting to live and breathe a different reality, I guess. Now, for workers, right? So this is like a social work project. Yes. So workers, by research, are encouraged to validate the incel experience without supporting the ideology. And this is where I was like, oh shit. And you're like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, you validate the struggle, not the worldview.
So this is the attitude I've been trying to portray throughout the project. Like, here's the ideology, here's the theory. Judgment isn't unnecessary. I just feel like it's such an important thing that workers don't judge Inceldom. Like, that wouldn't be supportive to incels leaving the incel community. In social work, there's this huge thing of like inclusivity and all of that. And anecdotally, a lot of people like in social work or social service adjacent work have like this reflexive, like repulsive, like, oh, incels, those people are disgusting. They're fiends, they're animals. Like, oh man, they're murderers and rapists and all that. I'm like, you guys are gonna end up working with these people. Like, they're going to end up coming up to you and you're going to be like, oh, God, no. Like, what do you think that's going to help? If you want to get rid of inceldom, you need to, like, show compassion. Otherwise, this is, like, just another sign of being excluded by society. It's another sign of their inferiority. So just further relating social work to this. So, like, these recommendations that I have, they're based on research, but I just want to tie them to some social work ethics. So we have advocate to the protection of human rights for all, show compassion, respect, and non-judgment, ensure your personal beliefs don't supersede your client's rights or best interest, make sure to check your bias that may cause you to limit the self-determination of your clients, prioritize client well-being and interest. These are all really important to me because there's like low mental health intervention success rates for incels. Like the medical model of judgment or expertise isn't maybe going to vibe with them so much. So we need to try to prioritize validation and like collective consciousness. So incels already have such a high perception of being excluded or seen as inferior or judged. So like, what does that mean when they come to a social worker and they get that feeling validated? It's like, oh, even professionals think that I'm disgusting. I think society has a dim view of inceldom. I think at the very least, social workers need to be that space where incels can be felt seen if it's not going to be in the rest of their lives. Even if it's just something that incels are perceiving, and I'm wrong here, it's like when an incel goes to a social worker, they need to be felt seen. So long story short, I think incels are seen as irredeemable, repulsive bad guys. I think this plays a large part in their exclusion, although there's many factors. And I think social workers need to focus on our guiding ethics and flex our compassion to promote their inclusion. I don't get the impression medical interventions are like the major solve here. I think we need to stretch our idea of inclusivity to show compassion and care for incels as social workers. I'm not necessarily saying that like people in general need to change their perspective, but I think as professionals, we really need to work on this.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, you just see them as a person and you can validate all the struggles they're going through. But that doesn't mean that when they start spouting off weird shit that you would be like, totally.
As much as me as a person, I'm going to try to like be kind to incels and stuff. It's like, well, I'm also a social worker, so that's just like going to be part of my life. So like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, people in general, we need to be more accepting to incels. Although like ideally, I feel like that would be a huge help. Like I think this like societal problem issue where it's like, if we make people feel more included, they won't feel so excluded and can help draw them in. But I also want to validate that Inceldom does have a really bad rap for some valid reasons. If you got something about incels, I'm not here to be like, hey, you got it all wrong. You know, like the incel community, it can be distasteful. Okay, you're gonna love this because we have an addendum to the incel episode. In the disability and inceldom episode, I had originally mistaken some of the instructions. The instructions were saying something like, try to find like contrasting views to what you're talking about. I thought that that meant like contrasting views from like my incel research, but what they really just meant was like the social model of disability and the medical model, like how those contrast and like try to like integrate those contrasting views. But I thought they meant contrasting views within incel research. So then I did a bunch of research on that, and then I was talking about it to her, and she's like, oh, that's not what I meant. But now I still have all this bonus content.
Good Lord.
It's fun, though. I just found like one paper that was like in stark contrast to everything else. And it was just like much more heavy on feminism. And it was by someone named Carrion. So I call this segment Carrion the Contrarian. And then I ended up taking it out, but now we're just going to do it. They have a gripe with the term incel because they said it doesn't validate the fact that Inceldom was co-opted. They were like, oh, initially it was INVS cells, like INVCELS. Then it changed and like it was originally a wholesome community and then it got co-opted by misogynists. So it's like we need to call, what are now like dominant incels, like we should just call them misogynistic incels and leave the term incel for like the wholesome group. And to me, I was like, it's a bit late for that.
I was gonna say that's cute. Like, that's a cute idea. You're like, you're gonna be an incel. And when I say incel, I hope we're all on the same page about the real definition, which I am putting forth, which is actually the original. It's like, yeah, that's not how language works.
Her gripe that she had, I did make sure to incorporate into my assignment, just being like, hey, yeah, like it was kind of chill and then it got co-opted. So she was complaining that like a lot of research like doesn't mention that, so I made sure to mention it. She also said that it's not an identity feature. It comes a bit close to claiming that like a belief system is not part of identity, because like incels are like, oh, like this is an identity feature, it's a part of my identity. She's like, no, like you can't just say it's a part of your identity, like it's not real. But that would be like saying like religion couldn't be a part of your identity or something.
What is she saying? She's like, it's not part of your identity, it's just a thing.
Because some incels will claim that they're being like oppressed or marginalized for being an incel. And she's like, no, that's not a real part of identity. Like you can't be oppressed.
Okay, so she's like, you can't put that on your identity the same way you could like race.
Yeah.
Okay. I think she basically just wants to be like, you don't get to be oppressed. You rat.
Yeah, I thought it was like kind of a joke, because it's like saying like, no, like identity is something you're born with. And it's like, okay, well, what about gender? Like, what about
religion? Yeah.
Religion, orientation, like these things change or can change, or like...
Or disabilities, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, she was like, fuck these guys. You don't get to be oppressed, right? And she's like, well, I can't say that. I'm going to work myself backwards from there and be like, it's not identity. Like, and it's just like, I don't blame you for being like, fuck these guys, you're not oppressed. Just say that. Don't be like, I don't think it's part of your identity. No, not really. And it's like as much as you maybe could argue that, it's just not the right battle. You should just be like, you know what, it is part of your identity and I hate you and it's your fault. Because you could easily be like, oh, a Nazi, that's part of the identity and you don't get to be oppressed for that. You know, you're just a hateful person and maybe you have an excuse for it. I don't care.
Yeah, it's still a big part of their identity, but that doesn't mean that justifies like sympathizing for them.
It's funny, you see this all the time, especially on the right, like with conservatives, where they clearly have some ridiculous belief. And they're like, oh, do I justify this? Like, I can't just say I hate trans people. I'm just like, ew, trans people. So they're like, the problem is, what is a woman? You know, like, or like, like they just start talking about shit that no one cares about, and you get into these meta conversations, and you're like, what are you talking about? Because it's like proxy arguments. You know, because you can't have the real argument, so you have to make up a proxy war where you're like, instead of having the battle on, I don't like you guys, you're not oppressed, you're incels, you're going to have the battle on, as far as identity metrics go, this doesn't meet the criteria, you know, and I'm way more used to people on the right doing it, but anyway, it is funny to have someone I agree with be like, that's not why I'm saying that, like...
Yeah, proxy battle, that's a good name for it. Because sometimes you do hear, they'll get like a very concrete, like, oh, what about this? And then they're like, let me give you an analogy. It's like, the analogy doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about. But let me take this out of the real world.
That is like another thing, especially on the right, they do, where things are very clean cut, and then they're like, let me make an analogy, and the analogy makes it more confusing. It's like the point of the analogy is to make it less confusing, but you're like, oh yeah, well, what if we all, I don't know, all got on a bus and everyone on the bus had to hand out tickets, and if you had the wrong ticket, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, you see these proxy battles, like, because on the left, you'll just be like, I believe that everyone should have a living wage, right? I think everyone should have access to health care, equal rights for people, and you don't need to have a proxy for that. It's just not, it's very hard to argue against. Or on the right, they'll be like, no, I don't like people of color. Can't say that anymore. So what do we say? I'm like, it's a matter of culture, you know. We got to keep the culture. I don't care what color you are. I'm just worried about keeping proper morals, culture, da-da-da. And what that ends up being is mostly a white people. Okay, sure.
Okay.
I don't care. If it was mostly black people, I'd go along with that then. You know, it's just like you can't have the actual argument because your actual beliefs are completely fucked and you know that, and you can't say that outside of your own little circles. So then you have these proxy arguments.
Another thing, this author, The Contrarian, highlights himpathy, which is the inappropriate sympathy for cisgender men perpetuating violence and harm. Himpathy is deeply embedded in institutions and society. They basically say that since most people doing research on incels are men, they are more likely to identify with incel misogyny than identify it as problematic.
So the guys researching incels are like, yeah. You know what it is? It's like Harley Quinn, the Joker, how she is this therapist and falls in love with him, and that's the incel researchers. They're like, let's take a look at these freaks. 5 minutes into reading incel stuff, they're like, so women are bitches. Yeah. They want one thing, and it's like, you were on that subreddit for 5 minutes.
So yeah, you got that right away. I got a big kick out of it. So at least, so this is from 2023, and I think like around that time, most of the research on incels, at least like that I was seeing, like a lot of it was coming from like counterterrorism kind of like vibe of research. And this author was like, yeah, and since like that's absolutely dominated by men, like no wonder they don't mind because they sympathize with the men, like
with the terrorists.
right? Like they're trying to nail down these incels as terrorists and be like, yeah, like these guys, like, you know, really trying to put them in a framework of like how they're a threat. And then she's like, yeah, they like them. It's like, what do you mean?
Like, the purpose of researching terrorists outside of scholarly reasons is to try to, like, figure out where they are, prevent them from becoming a terrorist, find them if they are, prevent terrorist attacks. And the idea that, like, you're doing that and you're also like, well, it's not so bad. Like, it's like, what is every one of these guys? Like, no, these people are generally war hawks. They're fucking freaks that are like obsessed with terrorism where there is none. I don't think they sympathize with them. Yeah, like almost all the research on that up until the last few years was just related to like terrorism. It was like after 9/11, that whole sector just blew up, you know. But the idea, like, there are these incel shooters that you'll hear about and kill a dozen women. No one is fucking sympathizing. Oh, your little subconscious sexism kind of just leads you to be like, don't we all get upset with women sometimes?
I saw another critique that was like kind of against some of the papers that this person is citing, saying like, yeah, like they're really like kind of going overboard with calling murderers incels, because some of them were just like misogynists, and they were like, that's not fair to say because like misogyny is its own problem, and if we go, oh, like men killing women, that's all incels, then it's like, then we're detracting from the seriousness of misogyny, and it's like also weakening like the specificness of incel.
Isn't like any guy that kills a woman is an incel?
Like, that's not what they were saying, like, but it was kind of like, so there was a bunch of papers being like, oh yeah, and this guy was an incel too because he killed a bunch of women in like the 1970s. And it's like, well, that was before incel was even a term. But more importantly, like, that guy had a girlfriend. Like, he had partners. Like, he wasn't an incel. He hated women. There's like stuff like that where it was like, yeah, men would go on killing sprees killing women, but they weren't incels, but they were still like retroactively getting retconned into the incel lore, and it's like, that's not real. And that was a woman saying that. Like, that was like a woman researcher's opinion, being like, there's less incels than we're making them out to be, or at least incel killing. So she, at the time, I think it was like, yeah, there's 14, and she kind of like categorized them and was like, there's really more like 5. It's way less terrorism than it looks like. And with the empathy thing, sure, like you want to hear more like women's side of an issue that really affects women, like Inceldom. So I did make sure that my project was overwhelmingly women. It was probably like 80% citations from women.
Nice.
So we got that. Next up, we have Carrying the Contrarian on mental health. She has a problem because, number one, a lot of like the statistics on incel mental health are like self-report. So she's like, it's not real.
What?
Right, because it's not like a class of like people that like readily identify. You know, you don't just like go to the doctor, oh, I'm an incel and like I have this or whatever, and they can just like put you on statistics. It's just like, you know, they'll put out a survey, hey, are you an incel? Like, oh, okay, please take this survey. And then most of them, I think I cited the statistics in the last one, but like really high rates of depression, anxiety, suicidality, and like I think ASD. She was like, it's not real because like they're just saying it. Like,
I wonder how she feels about trans people. The thing here, like any serious person would say, the data is not super strong because it's just self-report. Take that with a grain of salt. It's not like we have doctors diagnosing people. It's just people saying they are. But you should be like, it's just nothing. Like, it's just like so, like, it's such an unserious take. But also, like, if someone says they're an incel, unless they're lying for some weird reason, I mean, they are.
I think she's more like, oh, they're gonna lie about how like much destitution or like suffering that they have, and it kind of aligns with like the empathy thing and being like, oh, it's not a real identity. It's just kind of like the paper is just like an attack on like none of it's real. It's all bullshit. Like, let's not, like, they're just bad people. Don't take it seriously. It's all fake, and they just want to kill women.
Oh, okay.
I mean, like, she doesn't say that, but like if it's like, what is like the purpose of all of these arguments? What are they adding together? It's kind of like the identity isn't real, your mental health status isn't real, the people who are researching you sympathize with you as terrorists. You know, it's like, what picture are you trying to paint?
You know what's like so annoying about something like this? And again, like, I feel like this is something you see on the right. Incels are the lowest fucking you can be. Everybody hates incels. Even people that hate women hate incels. Like, you have no camaraderie. Like, everybody fucking hates you. Your life sucks. And the idea that people are like, yeah, you know, it's too bad. She's like, okay. I don't want to hear it's too bad. They do a lot of indefensible stuff. I'm not trying to defend them. I'm not some big incel booster, but to just acknowledge, yeah, they probably have a lot, they're struggling a lot, and it's kind of it's almost like even just like looking into it at all. It's like, just don't. You could say this about any group of people, not that I want to equivocate, but like terrorists or whatever, you could be like, well, let's look at them as a person. How did they get like this? Why are they like this? How could we get, and just don't even look at them. Lock them up. I guess my overall point is, you don't need to worry about them getting too much empathy. Everybody fucking hates them, but it's like them getting like a shred of empathy is like, don't even do that. They live in hell, and you don't need to worry about them getting too much sympathy because they're not getting it from anyone.
Yeah, except for us.
Not me, you. Barely me, I guess. Now that I'm on the pod, I'm like, well, I can see. But
that's the gang, is just men's mental health. That's Cope v. Rope, without getting a little camaraderie and trying to like engage and understand. You're never going to solve that problem. You know, if everybody's like carrying the contrarian, that's like only going to fuel incels. That's more like my stance.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with that. Like, you can look in, do some research, find ways to help them. And she's like, no. What do you propose then? Really? Because obviously you can't like arrest them. Like,
kill them.
Yeah, like basically.
Put them in the pit.
Because someone who is looking into it and having empathy for them will be working towards preventing incel violence and also just incels in general.
It's such a weak critique because it's
a weak critique.
Going after like the researchers or whatever, you can kind of see like the same targeting that she would do over somebody like me or like mental health professionals or whatever, like anybody who wants to help them by pulling them out of Inceldom and be like, you just identify with them. It's like, no, we're trying to stop them, but like if you really do want to help and you're like a professional, you can want to help them, but obviously it's clear that like it would tarnish your professional identity to also be like sympathizing with them as far as like their ideals. It's like, yeah, you need to have like a contrasting stance against Inceldom, like against like, you know, the base beliefs and like how they view the world and stuff like that, but you can still want to help them. So another part of the mental health thing is that she says, so a lot of like papers on Inceldom focus on mental health, and she says that that's like more evidence of empathy, because she's like, yeah, if it's mental health, then we're seeing this as like an individual problem and people trying to focus on mental health. It's like, oh, so it's not societal, we just need to like get them into like rehab, basically, like, you know, targeted mental health stuff. And it's like, oh, poor you, like something happened to you or something's wrong with you. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. I also don't think it's just mental health, but I do also think that the mental health is probably important, right? Like, I think it's like a big community thing. Like, how do you get locked into being an incel? You get sucked into the community because you're so lonely in the first place, and then you're like, wow, these people accept me, and then, okay, now I'm really like absorbing all this stuff. It's like, okay, so we need to go 4 steps back and be like, how did somebody get so vulnerable to be sucked into that community in the first place? But once you are all the way there, sucked into that, I think there would be a mental health aspect of like helping somebody take the steps back and then get reintegrated into the community. You know, I don't think it's just mental health. I think she's really, I don't know, making it be like, no. It's like, yeah, it's not just that. Like, you're making it sound like we're saying it's just that, or we, like the researchers are just saying that. I don't think they are. Carrying the contrarian on terrorism characterization. So there's this quote that she really didn't like, and it was about an incel who was saying like, yeah, people like, they see us as terrorists and it's not fair. Like, there was a terrorist attack recently and like, I feel bad for the people and everything, but like, I'm an incel now, people are calling me a terrorist and that's not fair. And she was like, well, look who only thinks about themselves. If you had a shred of empathy,
you would walk to the courthouse and say, I did it. I killed those people.
She says it minimizes the deaths and asserts incel victimhood in an effort to further political goals.
The idea that like incels are like some unified group of political goals is just like insane. Like, they're you're never going to see a group of incels out and about like, we want our bill passed. Like, to just be like a member of any group and to be like, I don't want to be judged by one individual's action just because he's like in my class or whatever. It's like, yeah, not controversial at all, right? Like, she'd be like, yes, generally, but not with these guys, you know, like.
Yeah, that's exactly what I put. Like, my own little comment, I was like, I would hesitate to call all members of a group terrorists solely based on an aspect of their identity. I think we've done enough of that since 9/11.
Yeah.
You can see, like, each of these points, it's adding up to like, well, what the fuck is she trying to say?
That is like really when you know the term bitch eating crackers.
No.
It's when you like hate someone so much that you're like not even making it like this bitch eating crackers, you know, like can't even fucking think straight. The guy's like, now they're calling me a terrorist. Look at this. Guys are making it about him. He's being called a terrorist. He's like, no, I'm not. Wow. Think about the deaths. Think about the deaths. Like, an incel says anything, and you're just sitting there like, look at this bitch eating crackers. Motherfucker. Give me a reason. I don't know how academic papers work, but the idea that this like, is this peer reviewed?
Yeah.
Like, who is like, sure. Like, like, This is like an opinion piece. Like, it should hardly be an academic paper. It should be like a blog or something. Like,
She was like, my recommendation is that we have to teach everybody. We have to like teach the teachers and the policemen and the parents and like and doctors and everybody, and like raise awareness. And it's like, that's your solution, is to like change the world.
I have a very simple solution. Everyone needs to attend my course where I say, lock them up. She's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. Her problem is people are starting to sympathize with them, and, you know, next thing you know, they become president, or like, like, it's just like, there's no problem. This is another parallel to like more right-wing stuff. So many right-wing problems like aren't problems, you know, like gay marriage or whatever. And so they're like, you know, and here's the solution. And it's like, but it's like, there's not really a problem. So the solution is just like really abstract. You're like, moral goodness need to be spread about like Santa Claus, you know, and then like,
They have to create an analogy why gay marriage is bad and doesn't make sense.
they're like, imagine a dog. It eats dog food. Would you feed it cat food? No. Like, and you're like, what are you talking about? It's not to say incels aren't a problem, but the problem she has with them is not a problem. So her solution is just like, it's a symbolic problem with a symbolic solution. Like, it just, yeah, there's nothing there.
Yeah, and to be fair to her, like I took out like the most bullshit stuff that I saw from her paper. Maybe she had some better stuff, but I was specifically looking for contrasting stuff, and I was like, this is stupid.
What?
And I can't remember clearly what her proposed solution was, but I really do think it was like, we have to educate everybody. Like, everybody needs to be educated on this and like build awareness. And it's just like, okay, yeah, change every community everywhere from now on.
And also, it's like I said, what would you be telling them? Like, what are you telling the doctor? Don't feel bad for this guy. There's no like individual solution, let alone like, I don't even know if I was on board with her what I should take away from this. Like, what should I be doing differently? What should a doctor be doing differently? Like, nothing.
I think I might review the paper and add it into another episode of just like, what was the real solution? See if I can condense it just in case. Because I don't want to be like, and that was it, and she's done.
All she said was, I'm reading the professor's notes. He said, Norm did okay. And Simon brought it to that next level. I'm like, holy, wow, okay. Wow, I'm getting compliments right off the hog. I guess I get a passing grade. I passed the hardest assignment on the fly. It also just feels important to mention that it was wise of you to clear the jokes and cursing and whatnot with me ahead of time. It was totally fine, as I said, but I can imagine most faculty members would find it distracting or inappropriate. Oh, the monkey's jacking off? Said your brother was a great co-host and possibly... Oh, this is great. I hope you are proud of what you created. Your brother was even better than you were, and yeah, great. Okay. This might be the finest feedback anyone's ever gotten on an assignment, ever. And it's just like, if you listen to the episode, there's like a whole thing about monkeys jacking off, and like, you wake up in the Matrix, you're a monkey. Like, and there's the whole thing where I'm trying to make Norm... I'm thinking about the monkeys. I'm trying to make Norm seem racist and ableist. I was surprised a lot of that got into the episode, and so to see that the prof is just like on a vibe, yeah. Bravo. And then just, I am fascinated by the story of the guy who was using crutches after leg lengthening surgery. Like, what the hell? And that was really the core of the episode, was that guy, and everything branched out, like, worked its way backwards and forward from there. Keep in touch. I'd like to meet your brother. P.S. I laughed so much every time your brother said cripple, and I could see the profound discomfort on your face, knowing I would be watching this. You got a parasocial relationship with 92. What gets? How do I get a 93? This is like, you are the professor now. This is the finest work I've ever seen. Anyway, could have been better. A-, like.
I emailed her and asked her, like, I'm going to read the feedback. Like, do I have your permission to read the feedback? And I'm going to give you this name. And she was like, yeah, that's cool. And I also said, like, oh, just so you know, Simon's probably going to say, like, from now on, cite this moment as, like, getting his honorary degree. And he's going to cite you as having granted it to him.
Yeah, it's like not far off. That is what I did halfway. Actually, probably 1 minute into reading it, I was like, I'm what's the word? I graduated. You know?
Really doing it.
And now I'm just depressed I'm not like in the graduate program. Oh man, I ate some of your food yesterday. Shitting all night.
Really?
Well, not all night. I woke up in the middle of the night and was like,
that's so weird.
well, I'm hoping it's not the food. I'm going to try eating it again.
But you also had some, the night I cooked it, you had 2 burritos of...
That's true. So maybe it's not the food. I forgot about that. That's good. Oh my God. I was actually like, what am I going to do?